All right, it is 9 a.m. Let's go ahead and get started and call this meeting to order. It is November 30th, 2021, almost the end of the year. This is your regular meeting for actually a special meeting for the Board of Supervisors for the County of Lake. And we are going to start this off with a moment of silence. Is there a moment of silence from anybody on the board? Okay, and so I'm just going to say that the holidays can be very difficult for a lot of individuals. There's a lot of emotions that come out. There's a lot of differences in our life status and our life situations. Some people have lost family members over the course of the year, making the holidays quite different. And so today I'd like to hold those people in our thoughts in hopes that they can find the strength to deal with the unfortunate circumstances that life has dealt them. Supervisor Crandall, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 3, consideration of extra items not appearing on the agenda. Are there any extra items brought by the Board of Supervisors or staff? Seeing none, let's go ahead and move on. We have a consent agenda in front of us. Are there any items that board members wish to pull? And I have not received any emails of any that staff has requested either. Let's go ahead and open it up for the public. Are there any items from the consent agenda that the public wishes to pull? If you are on Zoom, please dial *9 if you're on the telephone, or hit the button at the bottom of your screen to raise your hand and we will call on you. Again, this is to pull an item on the consent agenda. And seeing none in the Zoom room and none in the boardroom, bringing it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve consent agenda 5.1 through 5.3.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Scott, second by Supervisor Simon. Roll call, please, Johanna.
Okay, Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Supervisor Scott?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are not yet ready for our 9:05 a.m. item. Let's go ahead and take up item 7.3, consideration of the following advisory board appointments for the Western Region Town Hall. As you can see, there is an application in front of us and an opening. And any questions or comments? Okay, let's open it up for the public. Any questions or comments on that item? And seeing none, let's bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint David Ebby to the Western Region Town Hall.
Second.
We have a motion from Supervisor Crandall and a second by Supervisor Pyska. Johanna, roll call, please.
Okay, Supervisor Simon?
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall?
Yes.
Supervisor Scott?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye. Thank you. And we have about 5 seconds. I'll go ahead and introduce, we have public input. This is for anybody that wishes to speak on an item that is not on our agenda today. You will be given 3 minutes. We do have Kevin Wasick that is here. I know he submitted some paperwork for his comments. So if you would please come to the microphone. Again, you have 3 minutes.
Morning. My name is Kevin Wasick. I live in Lucerne. The reason I'm here is I sit on the council for Lucerne. Been on it for a while. When I got on the council, one of the biggest topics we had was our harbor in Lucerne. A group of us at the time came over to support the issue. You guys approved the issue to get it dredged. And I know we've gone through our pandemic and been shut down for everything. and we get a lot of input about what's happening in our harbor, but nothing's getting done. And it's actually hurting our town. That is probably one of the biggest assets to Lucerne is that harbor. As a young man, I watched them build it. And it's really an important piece of thing that we need for our town. And it helps our business. It helps tourists come in. Right now, it's an RV park. People come through Highway 20, they stop, they use the harbor for an RV park instead of what it's supposed to be used for. My question is to you is, I keep getting people coming to our meetings and coming to me and saying, why isn't anything getting done? And I know there's a deal that we have to go through with permitting and stuff. But the one thing that I'd like to see done is have you guys go over there right now. They did it last year and cut the trees off. That when you enter the harbor, that's a big eyesore. And when you're bringing your boat in during the time when we can use the lake, it's a safety issue. And right now would be a perfect time to get in there like they did last year and at least get that part cleaned up while we wait for your permitting. That's a big thing we need done in Lucerne is get that done. I sit on the board and I get all these inputs of what they want to do for the town and nothing's getting done. It makes our town hall meetings kind of a joke. And I'm proud to be on that town hall and I work hard for our committee. I help other town hall meetings. And we need to have you guys push a little bit to get that dressed and get it ready for the summer. Perfect opportunity. There's nothing in there right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comment. And no further comment in the chambers. And we do have 2 comments on Zoom. Let's go ahead and start with Julia Bono.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm here today to talk about the safety of the COVID vaccines. We've heard numerous representations to the board from its medical advisors that these vaccines are safe and effective. And I want to just present the other side, which is what the CDC's various COVID vaccine events report database specifically states as to the numbers of adverse events that have been observed of these vaccines are reported by health professionals as well as individuals. There is a legal requirement to report severe adverse effects of vaccines. And so what we're seeing here are a result of that requirement. As far as deaths are concerned, we're seeing 18,853 deaths as of November 12th, 2021, 94,537 hospitalizations, 99,470 urgent care visits, 139,952 doctor office visits, 8,082 anaphylaxis occurrences, and 11,229 Bell's palsy events, including an individual who I know personally. There have also been 2,996 miscarriages, 9,332 heart attacks, including my sister-in-law, who experienced a heart attack shortly after taking a vaccine, 13,237 myocarditis, pericarditis events, 30,010 permanently disabled individuals, 4,387 thrombocytopenia and low platelet events, 21,089 life-threatening events, 33,660 severe allergic reactions, and 10,455 shingles events. Just to put this into perspective, historically, overall, 196,168,756 people, or 60% of the U.S. population, have been fully vaccinated, according to data from USA Facts. The number of deaths reported as adverse events from all COVID-19 vaccines are 18,853, as I've just stated. That makes the number of deaths per million people vaccinated roughly 961 deaths per million people vaccinated. Prior to the COVID-19 vaccine rollout, the deadliest vaccine in history was the smallpox vaccine that had a reported death rate of 1 per 1 million, as per an NCIH published report. This means that the COVID vaccines are 961 times more deadly than the previous record holder for a deadly vaccine. There is a reason why we no longer give the smallpox vaccine, and that is because it caused very severe adverse effects.
And your 3
in
minutes are
some
up. You
people.
can finish with your last comment.
I would urge the board and those listening to this commentary to think carefully about whether the risk reward of the vaccine is worse in your particular individual situation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next is Carlos Bono.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I usually prepare a script before I speak before the board. I did not have time this morning. I just want to address the board, and I wanted to say that the vaccine mandates have been stopped on the federal level. So employers in Lake County that are requiring vaccination by the deadline that the federal government imposed is no longer valid. So I think that the employers in Lake County should stop and desist in mandating vaccines for their employers, since it's not required. And there's no reason to push these vaccines, since there's no, the numbers aren't there for Lake County. So anyway, the adverse events continue piling up. This vaccine is not safe. It is not superb unless you're considering the killing off of the population as superb. At any rate, there is a website for concerned citizens in Lake County to stop this medical tyranny. The website is standuplakecounty.org, and there's a petition on the website which we will be presenting to the board in the future as far as these mask and vaccine mandates. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next is phone 0611. Please state your name, and you have 3 minutes. Hello, we can hear you. Okay, I'm gonna mute you. Let's try that again. And let's do phone 2689.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. This is good morning. I'm having some problems with my phone here, but this is Tom Slade.
We seem to have created a problem here. Try it again, Tom.
Okay, thank you. I was going to come in this morning, and I chose not to for some particular reasons. But what I wanted to do, and will do, is to deliver to each of you. I have 5 copies of the Real Anthony Fauci by Robert F. Kennedy, and you've probably heard of it. Maybe you even have copies. It's called Bill Gates, Big Pharma, and the Global War on Democracy and Public Health. And most of the issue is I'm going to probably bring it into the clerk of the board this afternoon. I'll have a box, and I'll put 5 copies in there, and your name's on each one, but it really doesn't matter because they're all the same. So that's the main thing, is to disclose this information and get it to you. But and so that's the main point I wanted to make. But also, it's 446 pages, about 2,000 footnotes. And I'm 78 years old, and I have read a lot of books in my life, nonfiction books, and there is nothing like this. I've skimmed through the whole book. There's a chapter on all these horrific experiments on children. I think that's chapter 7, and it's a short one, but I'm at page about 150, and I'm horrified by what I'm reading. And I think you will be too. And I urge you to read it just for your own self-enlightenment, because it seems to me that people people that you have looked to in good faith and trusted, maybe you won't want to trust them. Again, I'm not here to tell you what to think. You'll be capable of thinking for yourself. But to me, this whole thing has been a fear campaign. I'm not particularly afraid of COVID any more than I am a lot of other things. I mean, now, in fact, I just saw the news, brace for a new variant. I mean, I thought, oh, like, here we go again. This is just, what happened to flattening the curve? So anyway, I'll just leave it at that, because the main reason for that, a lot of thoughts, and I'm just, read it right now, because I just want to know my intention is to drop 5 copies of that book off at the clerk of the board this afternoon. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And phone 2689, I believe you're unmuted. If you can talk right now, go for it. I'm not sure if there's some technical difficulties, but you're unmuted and your hand is raised and we cannot hear you. Okay, we are going to move on. Just want to make sure everybody's aware we are open for the public in our chamber. So if you do have technological issues where you're not able to communicate with us via Zoom or via telephone or however it is that you're logging in, just want to make sure you're aware of the other options so that you can provide public comment. And of course, there's always the e-comment option as well. But we are going to move on to our 9:06 a.m. item 6.2, consideration of a presentation by United Way of the Wine Country regarding possible expansion of 211 Lake County from disaster only to full service. And CAO Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank Matthew Rothstein for taking the lead with this project, and he will introduce this item.
Good morning, board members. As you're aware, Lake County implemented disaster-only 211 service in 2019, and this was state-funded through SB 1212. Primarily, 211 has been used to provide information regarding COVID-19 and PSPS events in Lake County, and further resources are available at 211lake.org. The intent of the disaster-only program for unserved counties was for jurisdictions to build databases of services available in their communities and consider fully implementing 211. Nicolette Weinsweg, Lisa Carreño, and Jennifer O'Donnell of United Way of Wine Country have been working with us. And this morning, Ms. Weinsweg and Ms. Carreño are present to discuss what this would look like in Lake County. Today's presentation is informational only, but your board may wish to provide direction to staff. Welcome, Ms. Weinsweg and Ms. Carreño. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Matthew, for inviting us to be here, and thank you, board members, for giving us the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm Lisa Carreño. I'm the president and CEO of United Way of Wine Country. Briefly, I'll share with you that United Way of the Wine Country became the administrator of 211 Sonoma in the summer of 2019. We have, for the last 2.5 years, largely been operating 211 Sonoma with post-fire, fire emergency, public safety power outage, and then, of course, over 18 months of the pandemic. We have been working collaboratively with local partners, with the County of Sonoma, and with community-based organizations to build a very robust year-round program that gives access to our local community to all of the resources that can be experienced through the website, through text and phone technology. And we wanted to share what that model has looked like here and introduce the opportunity, invite you to work together to potentially build a similar model in Lake County. With that introduction, I'm going to turn the rest of the presentation over to Nicolette Weinsweg. She's our Vice President for Community Impact and oversees the 211 initiative. Nicolette, take it away. Nicolette, we can't hear you.
You're not muted in Zoom, but you might have your microphone turned off. No, still not.
So no.
No?
Ah,
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Technology issues this morning. Thank you so much, Lisa, and thank you to the board for having us here this morning. As Lisa mentioned, my name is Nicolette Weinsveg. I'm the Vice President of Community Impact at United Way. Wanted to just take a moment to briefly talk about who United Way of the Wine Country is and what 211 is. So United Way of the Wine Country has existed for over 50 years, and we work to support sustainable improvements to systems and services that benefit all people in our community. We proudly serve families and individuals living in Sonoma, Mendocino, Lake, Humboldt, and Del Norte counties, and are deeply committed to improving family financial stability, serving as a vital link between residents, nonprofit organizations, businesses, and government leaders. Our work is guided by the values of equity, inclusion, collaboration, integrity, accountability, and transparency. So 211, really the vision of 211 is to be the community's go-to resource when people require compassionate help navigating many resources in our community. We know that it's difficult to reach out for help, and so we really strive to be that compassionate and inclusive source of help for our community. 211 provides access to community, health, social, and disaster services as a full service 211. Currently, Lake County's 211 is providing disaster-only services, mainly around COVID. However, people can call 211 at this point and have access to some of the limited resources that are in the database, because we know that when people call for, COVID-related information, whether it be vaccines or testing, that they may also be food insecure or have questions about housing. And so there are some resources currently in the Lake County 211 database. We serve as a trusted source for access to comprehensive information, referrals, and direct assistance. We operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It is a free service. It's available in up to 200 languages. And as you guys are now, and as we have been in Sonoma and Mendocino County, we play an important role in providing official incident-specific information in coordination with local emergency services in times of disaster. We contract our call center out to Interface Family and Children's Services. This is also the provider that is overseeing all of the disaster-only 211 services. So our call center that takes Sonoma and Mendocino calls at this point also takes Lake County calls. So we do have a relationship with them. We've had this contract with Interface since we started 211 in Sonoma County in 2019. And recently, when we took over 211 in Mendocino County, we've also obviously contracted with Interface. So we work with Interface to curate information. We are kind of the boots on the ground in our local communities. We are the face of 211 Sonoma and Mendocino. We interface with the partners in our community and get the resources that go into the database, and then they are the ones that take the calls. We also are responsible for all of the marketing and fundraising for 211 Mendocino and Sonoma. And so just to touch briefly on how full service is different than disaster only. Disaster only 211s under SB 1212 are only activated during times of disaster. This is a very unique situation that we're in right now with COVID. Typically, I think that the thought behind this disaster only 211 is that we were seeing fires ravage California, and there wasn't a place that people could turn for information, that was an easy to remember number. People were putting out all these different numbers for CAL FIRE and for the county and for community-based organizations. And so when Disaster Only 211 was envisioned, it was envisioned to be activated during times of, fire, flood, earthquake. Now we have COVID, and COVID is obviously an emergency or a disaster. And so these SB 1212 disaster only 211s have been activated, and they are taking calls from community members and giving them information and referrals to vaccine appointments or testing sites, financial assistance, the ERAP program. And so Lake County currently has a limited database, although it is the largest database of all of the SB 1212 211. So that's a really wonderful thing that, you know, there is housing and food services and mental health support and all of the services that people would need to access by being impacted by COVID. A full service 211 just expands on that. So there's additional resources in the database that aren't directly or somewhat related to the current disaster or emergency. And full service 211s also, in addition to having a comprehensive database of all of the health and human service referral organizations and information in the database, also do special projects. So in Sonoma County, we contract with the county to provide CalFresh eligibility screening and enrollments. We also do the scheduling for the VITA free tax preparation service in Sonoma County. And so with a full service 211, there are more options to provide services and referrals and information to our residents. So Lisa spoke briefly about this 211, and I'm sorry that says 211 Sonoma. It should say 211, just 211, because we do 211 Sonoma and Mendocino, helps connect our community with information about health and human services available to them. It's accessible by phone by dialing 211. It's accessible by text message. And so if you don't have great phone service or you just prefer not to directly talk to somebody on the phone, you can text your zip code to 898-211 and a live call specialist will text back and forth with you. So it is a true two-way text. And then we have our website as well that has a self-guided search and different categories that you can click on to search. And so there's various ways that we can access information through 211. And we always say that the information in 211 is only as good as, or the services through 211 are only as good as the information that we have. And so we work really hard to identify resources in the community and our community partners and form relationships with them so that we can have, two-way communications with those agencies to get resources updated when they add a program or when they stop delivering services. We do a biannual agency update where we ask all of the agencies in the database to take a look at their listing and let us know if anything has changed. For the first 16 months of COVID, we did monthly updates. So we sent monthly reminders out to our partners saying, take a look at your data, your resource in your database. We know that things may have changed because of COVID, and update it, because we really want to be able to give accurate and timely information to our callers and texters and website users. So why is 211 important? One of the main reasons that it's important to us, and I talked about our values early on in the presentation, is that it promotes equity and financial stability. We really see 211 as an equitable avenue for people to access information because it is free, because it's available in so many languages, because you can access it however you feel comfortable, whether that's calling and talking to somebody or text messaging or looking up information on your own. It advances the social and economic mobility by connecting our clients and community members to resources available to them. We really strive to promote financial stability, and we know that if we get our community members tied into the services that they need and they're not food insecure anymore and they have somewhere that they can lay their head down comfortably at night, that they are going to be more financially stable. We also see it being important because we know that there's a lack of broadband internet in rural communities. And so, somebody may not be able to go to their computer and search for resources or spend the time, Googling things, and they can actually just pick up the phone and call somebody, and that person can help them through the situation that they're in. And also, while they're having those conversations, do a screening to see if there's any other additional resources that they may need. And then again, during times of disaster, it provides streamlined incident-specific emergency information. So we are tied in Sonoma County and working in Mendocino County to be tied into the Public Information Officer system and to be a part of the EOC during a disaster, so that we have that up-to-date information that we can just roll out into our call center and on the messaging when people call and on our website. And then a little bit more about our role in disaster and emergency. Again, it provides information through phone, text, and web-based technologies. One of the important things is that we're not only getting information from our official county sources, but we can do some rumor control if people from the public are calling in and saying, hey, I heard that this place is evacuated, or I heard that this shelter is closed, or whatever it may be. We can relay that information back to our county partners and verify it, and then put out, some rumor control messages that no, that's not true, or yes, that is true. And so it's kind of this bi-directional information sharing that we have, which has been really great. And then another really important thing is that it provides information to our access and functional needs population. And we've been working really hard with our call center in conjunction with PG&E to identify organizations that are providing services that directly impact or benefit our access and functional needs population, and making a plan for how to best serve that community during times of disaster. So not only are we putting out information to the community about what's going on, we're also taking those steps to help the most vulnerable in our community access services and connect with the agencies that they need to before, during, and after a disaster. And so, we took over 211 Sonoma in July of 2019, and in October of 2019, Sonoma County suffered through the Kincaid fire. We had almost our entire county evacuated. And so we were really able to get our procedures down and our relationships built with the County of Sonoma to be able to provide this information. And we're, working on it with Mendocino County. And if 211 becomes a full service 211 under the operation of United Way for Lake County, we'll do the same in Lake County. And that ends kind of my formal presentation. Lisa, is there anything else that you wanted to add before?
I think maybe, Nicolette, let's invite, because this is an informational presentation, let's show the board members the website and invite them to explore that, and take Q&A right now, and let Matthew facilitate that for us.
So as Lisa mentioned, I'll share my screen one more time. I'm going to show you the 211 Sonoma's website. And one of the features on this website that we are really proud of and think is a really beneficial resource for our community is the reporting function. So I'll show you that. I just also wanted to show you just the general website. 211 Lake does have a website like this right now. It is limited because of the disaster only component. So this is kind of what a full service 211 website would look like. We have a 211 spotlight where we can highlight some of the information that is most timely. So obviously right now that would be vaccine information, financial assistance, and COVID information. And then here are the different categories that you can search for resources. And then there's also a guided search where you can put in a keyword and search. But just for the sake of time, I'll go ahead and show you this reporting function. So we have an interactive report. And I'll just make this bigger. So you can pull up information on calls and it can be broken down by demographic, city, client language, age group, if they have children under 5, their ethnicity, whether they called or texted, and see how many phone calls we've taken in a certain period of time, how many were first-time callers. This right here is really the kind of bread and butter of this reporting function. So it'll show you categories of need. So it gives you a nice little snapshot of what people are calling about, what the need is in the community. And so we see right now that, housing is our number one category of need, and then income assistance, food and meals, and healthcare. COVID-related calls are all comprised in that healthcare category. And then within categories of need, you can click on the just housing, and it'll break down here what the subcategories are. So we see that rent payment assistance is our number one category of need. Homeless shelter would be next. And again, you can filter this down by specific cities or specific, color, ethnicity, or age. And so I think that it's a really great feature just to kind of have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community. We hear a lot of anecdotal information, and then this really puts that quantitative information down. And so I encourage you guys all to go to 211sonoma.org and just take a look at the reporting function. It's not available, unfortunately, for Lake County because of the disaster only. However, if we were to transition to a full service 211, after 6 months of calls, we would be able to report this data.
Well, thank you very much, Nicolette and Lisa, for your presentation this morning. I know our board members will be interested to know what are the typical costs associated with full 211 implementation, as well as you mentioned that you provide by contract some more intensive supports in the EOCs for some of our neighboring counties. Can you speak to the costs for those as well?
Yeah, so we've crunched the numbers for Lake County a bit and have kind of compared them to Mendocino County as it's more comparable than to Sonoma County. And it looks like for a 211 to run for a 1 year, it's between $180,000 and $200,000. And that's just for, regular call handling, website maintenance, resource database maintenance. And then as far as our contract with the county for disaster only services, we have an up to contract. And so basically it's an up to $50,000 at this point. And it really pays just for some of our United Way staff time, and then a reimbursement for the calls at $10 per call.
Thank you very much. And now we can take some questions from the board.
All right. Thank you very much for the presentation. And yes, that's definitely an important factor when discussing this program as well, how much the actual cost will be, though that is just an estimate. I'm looking to see if we have any comments or questions. Supervisor Pyska.
So I really appreciate this presentation. I get asked about 211 a lot. We have a lot of seniors in our county who don't really have any other ways to access information. I actually got a really long call on Friday from a frustrated senior who asked that we put more prompts on all of our outgoing voicemails to have access for more information. And she had quite a few comments about everything from the museums to the bus routes to everything. So it is something that I've heard over the years, and we are living in these dynamic times where we're going from disaster to disaster or compounding disasters, rapidly changing information. So I think that this would be a really valuable program for our county. So we're currently paying up to $50,000 for the disaster only.
That's in Sonoma County. So the SB 1212 funding covers the cost of this disaster only 211 currently. The funding runs out, I believe, next June. And I'm not intimately knowledgeable about the SB 1212 program at this point because we're not.
So if we had full service, it would include disaster service.
if you had full service, it would be just the general contract for call handling, and then another contract for disaster activation.
So it would be potentially 200,000 for the full service, and then an additional up to 50,000 or something along those lines for a disaster.
Yeah, if there was a major declared disaster and 211 was activated to be the go-to number for folks in Lake County to call to get incident specific information. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? So I'm interested in learning more. I think that it has potential. I'd like to find out some specific feedback from Sonoma County and from Mendocino County about their move from the disaster only 211 to a full-fledged service 211. What's been the overall impact for their community. I'd also love to find out what some of their outcomes are. I think it's great to show numbers that people reached out asking about housing or asking about healthcare, but did they actually find something that brought them to a better place, or did they just have a call in and received maybe some information but weren't able to actually get to a better place? And I think that the outcomes are going to be really important for me if we're looking at that amount of cost for the service. So I think those are two things that if this comes back to us, which I'm hoping it does, those are going to be important factors for spending that amount to make a change from what is already available to us when it comes to a disaster, which right now we're kind of taking advantage of the fact that the disaster has been quite a long-term disaster, but it also is not providing every little bit of information that the full service would provide either. So those are the things that I think will make an impact on a good decision for us to take. Before I open it up for the public, any last comments? Supervisor Scott?
Just that I agree that we need to have some sort of service that our constituents can call to try to navigate the system. We have so many services out there, many nonprofits helping our community, but many don't know where to go to be able to seek those services. So I don't know if this is a platform we need to go with, but we definitely need to be looking at some sort of platform to help our community.
Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, I'd be willing, obviously, to hear some more about it. I appreciate the work that CEO Hutchison and Matthew Rothstein has put together to bring this to us. But we are looking for some type of clearinghouse, like you say, how to navigate the system. We have other programs, hopefully, that we'll be bringing on board, through some of the, not really disaster services, but under the Risk Reduction Authority, where to go to get information, where the chipping services are happening, all kinds of other things that I could think that may be able to help in that area. But navigation, the system, it does come down to the two things that you've already talked about, Supervisor, about the one, cost, where these funds would be coming from, if there's an opportunity for grants or other things like that down the road to look at, but really what budget units we'd be doing. And then obviously the outcomes. It's a great thing to have where people can call and get the information, but you've already said it. What is the result? Are they getting put to the right areas, getting the services they need? And what type of support is that going to be from all of our departments as the calls are coming in? So looking at those costs, but obviously think that, it works in other areas, but it really comes down to the return on investment for our constituents. So that's where I'm at, but I would like to hear more about it and continue the conversation.
Supervisor Pyska?
I think a really critical part of this presentation is that you mentioned you're going to be doing the updates on a consistent basis. And that's something that we all struggle with. If there's a website anywhere out there, it's almost immediately outdated. And so to have that included in the price of service is to know and we all have confidence that that's been being updated on a regular basis. That's really important, and that makes me feel really comfortable with a program like this.
And I do have one final comment. You mentioned the phone, the texting, and the website. You didn't mention social media. Do you also provide a social media platform where that information can be shared and provided to other groups. I know that happens kind of organically throughout every community. But I think having that available, the up-to-date data that might be posted on your social media site, that might be shared by others, can really proliferate the information quickly to the public. I know whenever there's a disaster, I think more people go to Facebook to look for what's happening rather than dialing 211. And granted, that's because we haven't really advertised the fact that people can really use 211. It's kind of new to us, the fact that we're using it. In the past, I want to say 6 months to a year is what we've been doing. But yeah, just was wondering if you have any social media presence so that our public can utilize that information to make sure and hand it out to the right people.
United Way of the Wine Country has an active Facebook and Instagram page, and we do use that to share information about 211. It's mainly guiding people, saying, you know, during a fire, you can dial 211 or text 898-211 to get up-to-date information. And then we also will occasionally share some of our community partners, resources if they have postings on Instagram or Facebook. And then we've worked really closely with the County of Sonoma to co-brand our social media posts during times of emergencies and disasters, so that they're getting those up-to-date information co-branded with County of Sonoma and 211 to know that they can visit the website or call 211 for additional information.
Okay, thank you very much for that. If there's nothing further from board members, then let's go ahead and open it up to the public. We have a hand up in the Zoom room, Betsy Khan.
Betsy, you're muted right now.
There we go.
I'm trying. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the board, and thank you to Lisa and Nicolette. Also, thank you, Supervisor Pyska, for being so clear about the issue for seniors. Facebook is great. I use Facebook all the time. Bruno is completely correct. It's instantly available to those of us with technology, but we have a very large population of people who do not have or use that technology. A lot of people, even if they have smartphones, don't use them for internet because of the cost of the programs. So being able to use this for the telephone, straight, simple, and promote it through social media and all those other things is absolutely wonderful. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars already on putting together a database that's available from the Lake County Behavioral Health Services homepage, which you have to know how. First, you have to have technology to get to. Then you have to know to go there. Then you have to look for the link to the page. And then once you get to it, it's really cumbersome to use. Plus, the updating is crucial. Everybody knows this. Things constantly change. And I would like to, I'd be very curious as to whether you could provide us any information about how your services were provided to Lake County during the 2016 Clayton fire. We did not have the telephone systems geared to accept 211 calls, but you guys provided an 800 number that important that was to them in that period of time. Because there was no FEMA support, there was no state emergency support. It was strictly a local disaster response. And that was a huge benefit to us. So I really appreciate this. Thank you, Matthew. This is something so important, and I really urge the board to do whatever it takes to make this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And did you want to speak on the activities that you took part in for Clayton Fire?
Well, just to be clear and to answer Betsy's question directly, United Way of the Wine Country became the administrator for 211 in the summer of 2019. We were not the administrator for 211 in 2016 during the Clayton Fire. So neither Nicolette nor I have any information about whether and how 211 was activated in Lake County during that fire. And I apologize for that, but we could see if we could track that information down. But as we speak today, we don't have that information.
Lake County did not have 211 prior to Sonoma County in 2019.
Thank you very much for that clarification. And I see no hands up in the board chambers and no further hands up in the Zoom room. And so bringing it back to the board, it seems to me that we have consensus that we would like to continue this conversation. I know that I've requested some more information specifically. Is there any other specifics that the board would like to pass on to Mr. Rothstein before we move on?
Just coming up with the numbers, what we're looking at, is it a phase situation that we're looking at, coming up with some potential direct funding proposals and working with Carol and the board on looking where that funding would come from for this operation. So that's my request, and it sounds like we've made that already, but just that's clarification.
I appreciate the clarification. I think it's best to make sure they know exactly what we're looking for so that next time that information can be provided. And it sounds to me like that's it, or it looks to me like that's it. So again, thank you very much today for presenting to us and providing that service to our surrounding communities. And hopefully we'll see each other soon again, and we'll discuss about possibly working with you to help our community as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to our, let's see if we can do our 7.2. This one might actually be quick. Consideration of letter to California Department of Public Health regarding indoor basketball facial covering rules for youth sports. This was placed on the agenda on Wednesday. I think right before the afternoon is when the agenda was posted. By the end of the day, CDPH has changed their direction to school districts for extracurricular activities done by the schools themselves. It's kind of a weird statement, but within the statement it says masks are required, but if masks are not able to, it says masks are required when practicable. And so then it says, if not worn, then there's the option of testing. And I spoke with Superintendent Brock Falkenberg, who let me know yesterday that now the matter is within the individual school districts to make decisions. And so in my opinion, this is something that was relevant on Wednesday when this was posted, but is no longer relevant today as those things have been changed. We did receive an email from all superintendents of schools that had signed a letter. And I was hoping that we could join them in solidarity and wanting to make that change. And it looks like that change has occurred before we could do that. So to me, this is an unnecessary item other than it is on our agenda. So I do want to open it up for any potential discussion, but the matter is no longer relevant in my opinion. Anything from board members before we open it up for the public? Supervisor Scott?
Just want to make it clear, because I know looking at a lot of the comments, it looked like they thought we were the rule makers on this. So I just want to make it very clear, it is not us. We are not the ones that are making these calls or these judgments on masks or not masks. So just want to make that very clear, because it just seemed like they just read part of it, didn't read the whole thing, and then assumed that we were the ones that were in charge of this.
Thank you for that clarification. And if nothing more, let's go ahead and open it up for the public. No hands raised in the board chambers. No hands raised in the Zoom room. And so bringing it back, the item is concluded. All right. And how much time do we need for item 7.4? 10 minutes?
I think we can do that in 10 minutes, Mr. Chair.
All right. If Mr. Sullivan is ready, let's go ahead and open up 7.4. Consideration of cannabis equity grant application. CAO Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to introduce Patrick, who's getting his video on, and thank him for his work in securing cannabis grant funds for us, creating some great opportunity for Lake County. And so, Patrick, go ahead with this item.
Good morning. So I'll start out with a brief update on where the Cannabis Equity Grant stands. We had previously applied for and been awarded that Type 1 funding grant, which was $150,000. That funded our equity assessment and the creation of our equity plan with the assistance of Humboldt State University. Earlier this year, your board approved a Type 2 funding grant application after approving those projects done by Humboldt. And at this point, we were awarded $888,000. We received that funding in June. What the state has done is they have bumped up their deadline. They're trying to give out more money this year instead of waiting until next year. So we have an opportunity to apply for additional type 2 funding. There's a deadline of December 13th, 2021. So it's kind of a tight turnaround. And the state's made $35 million available, which is a bigger pot than previously offered. So the hope here is that we could essentially add to the available pot we have so that when we begin distributing these funds, we could give out more grants or grants with a higher award or some combination of both. The other thing that has happened is, as your board is aware, we applied for the local jurisdiction assistance grant. That was previously unknown until summer. The state did not know they were going to offer that. And some of that grant dovetails into what we had been planning to do with the equity funding. So in a few weeks, we should be finding out whether we receive that jurisdiction assistance grant funding. If we get it, that will do a lot of what we previously were planning to use these equity funds for. So what staff is suggesting is that we submit a substantially similar type 2 application to what we were given earlier this year. That covers some pretty broad topics, including rental and leasing costs for applicants, licensing and regulatory fees, regulatory compliance fees, fixtures, equipment, or capital improvements that are needed as part of the permitting process. We can submit that. We have to put in a base budget, but the state has made it clear that once we put applications out to our local applicants and cultivators, as we see what the particular needs are, the state will let us make adjustments to our budget. So we have to put something forward with this grant application, but we are not married to that. We can expand it and adjust it once we find out more about what our needs are. So if your board has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much for your presentation. CAO Hutchinson, anything further?
Nothing further?
All right. Any comments or questions from board members? I did have a question for this. I think there's some really good intentions from where this money is coming from. And I know that we've utilized it for some of our code enforcement under right here, basically regulatory compliance kind of stuff. Have there been any actual grants given or funding provided to applicants at this moment in time, or are we struggling or still processing those?
We're still waiting to move forward on giving grants out to applicants. And what I would highlight is the money that's gone to code enforcement and some of those other programs has actually come from different cannabis grants.
Okay.
We haven't yet touched this pool of money. Part of the reason we slowed down, Humboldt and Mendocino also, they're ahead of us and they slowed down on giving out grants. I think everyone was a little concerned about the new state grant program that we applied for a few weeks ago, that local jurisdiction assistance grant, because of the overlap. I think a lot of jurisdictions were hoping to get more information and know how that was going to blend in with their equity program. But at this point, we are ready to move forward with offering applications. We have to develop it, but we can now give out applications to our local businesses.
Okay. Yeah, I have more questions, but I think having the money first and being flexible in how that money is going to be utilized is going to, I think that conversation can wait. But I think definitely we need to apply for this, obtain the funds. I think the list that I see so far looks appropriate to me. I just know that the market is changing so fast. It's hard to know where the need for equity is the greatest because the difficulties of the industry have been increasing steadily over the past year. So, so I'm ready to move forward. If there's no further comment, Supervisor Crandall?
On are these the only things that these the grant requirements, or are these what we're proposing? These bulleted items like rent, lease, local and state applications, are those standards from the state for the grant source, or is that our recommendation?
So those are our current recommendations. It's actually a pretty broad spread of items that these grant funds can be used for. And our local equity plan actually offers a significant number of other programs this funding could be utilized for. One of the concerns, though, is that at this point in time, the state wants this money. They've indicated they really want this funding to help support equity applicants that are trying to get into the market, that are trying to get their license. So that's why, based off of our equity assessment, we were focusing on these direct grants that could help cultivators. But this program, especially when we clear through our backlog and people begin to get fully licensed and permitted, there's an opportunity to do all sorts of other programs. There's opportunities for assisting with the creation of road associations, with providing technical assistance, providing small business support. There's a pretty extensive plan that the county actually already has approved with the state. So we can open this up later. Just right now, staff was recommending focusing on these items because of our backlog and because of the outcome the state wants to see in the very near future.
Thank you. That answers a lot of the other questions I had. So
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and open it up for the public. Any comments from the public on this item? All right, seeing none in the Zoom room or in the board chambers, let's go ahead and bring it back. I do have one question, and I'm going to wince when I even ask the question, so I apologize in advance. I know it's a ridiculous sounding question, but it's becoming more and more of a struggle again as the industry changes and the market vastly swings. Is any of this eligible for equity to pay our taxes?
The answer to that would be no, it cannot be used directly to pay taxes. But I think what can happen, though, is this can provide support to small operations that are struggling with bills like taxes. We can provide funding that can help reimburse those applicants for a lot of their other state costs. So we could provide reimbursement for the fees they paid for licensing or applications, for instance. And that might help with their cash flow and help them meet other obligations such as their tax bills.
Okay, well, that's actually a better answer than I thought. I thought it was just going to be a straight no. So I appreciate that. And yeah, that means that we do have some flexibility within the program to be able to find ways to make sure that they meet all of their requirements, which also does include paying taxes. Thank you very much. I believe we're looking for just consensus on this as far as moving forward, or do we need an actual motion? I think consensus is good enough.
We need approval to submit the grant application, and that is a motion, and consensus around the nature of the submittal, which I feel you've given.
Yeah, I believe that we do have that, and so coming back to the board and looking for that motion to approve submittal.
I'll motion to approve submittal for the grant.
Second.
We have a motion from Supervisor Crandall, a second by Supervisor Scott. Roll call, please. Johanna.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sullivan. That was just about 10 minutes.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move on to our 10 a.m. item, and that is our redistricting meeting that we originally had organized for 10 a.m. We added a few things around it. A, redistricting public hearing number 4, final approval of boundaries/maps. B, discussion of a draft ordinance amending Article 2 of Chapter 2 of the Lake County Code, establishing the boundaries of the supervisorial districts for the County of Lake pursuant to sections 21,500 as sequitur, I believe, of the California Elections Code. Probably said that wrong, but that's okay. Ms. Long.
Well, good morning. I'm happy to jump right in. I don't know if Matthew wanted to make some introductory statements. He has been the captain of the ship and doing a fantastic job of getting us all moving forward. Today is the fourth public hearing related to the drawing the boundary lines. As I said prior, I do like to give a little bit of background for those who didn't attend the first 3 public hearings, but this is the opportunity for the board to redraw its boundary lines after the information that came out on the 2020 census. So we're in 2021 and we're now adopting those and redrawing our boundary lines. The law requires us to have 4 public hearings. Our first public hearing was our introduction where we explained the process. The second one, we went through communities of interest and established what jurisdictions, what areas need to be kept together based on a common interest, need, financial resource, and we were able to establish those with the assistance of the public. The last public hearing we had, which was the third one, we went over the maps, and that was the longest one we had, and it was a very productive meeting that we came out with a recommendation for a map after looking at several options and actually having an opportunity at the time to hear public comment and comments of the board to draw a map. From that, we came out with an option, which is option number 6. If you don't mind, I'll just share my screen quickly so we can all just remember what it is. But it is option number 6. Just making sure. Does everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. Option number 6, which does go through and incorporates all the changes or the recommendations that were made from the public, from the board members. It meets all the legal requirements that we are required to follow under the Fair Maps Act, under all the legislation and related to census. Particularly, all of our districts are contiguous. We have all the communities of interest explored and analyzed. We looked at how to make them the most compact. And we are within the 10% deviation between the different districts. So this is a map that meets all the legal requirements. So the next step and what this final public hearing is for is to get ready to finalize this map.
Is it possible to zoom out so that the public and the Board of Supervisors can see the entirety of Lake County?
Absolutely.
Sorry.
I'm zooming in and out. Does that work?
That works better. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for having me do that. And again, these are all available online. If you go to Lake County Redistricting, there is the website has all of the draft maps. It has option number 6, which is the one the board gave direction to select. And it also has all the public comment and summaries of all of our prior discussions. So that is a good opportunity if you are coming in late to the game to find out the information. So now that we've established the board has recommended this map to go forward, we have to decide how we're going to implement it. If you look back in 2010, the Lake County Board did what's called meets and bounds. They did a legal description of each of the boundary lines and adopted it as part of an ordinance. There are multiple options on how to do it, and a lot of different jurisdictions do it differently. At this point, to do a meets and bounds legal description is going to take a little bit of time because, again, we want to be right on it. So it would require the planning department to go back through and look at everything that was done in 2010, confirm that it's done correctly, and then update it with the new information. So that is one option, but that is an option that's going to take a little bit of additional time. There's also 2 other options that we can explore. The law says we are required to adopt a map. That's how it phrases it, a map. And so that's been interpreted as, again, doing the meets and bounds, but also looking at adopting a legal description using the census blocks. And in conversations with your GIS expert, Lon, who is been so instrumental in this process and knows these maps better than anyone I've ever worked with, believes that can be done very simply and might actually be a preferable option because, again, you get the same result. You get the maps drawn, you get the legal description created using census blocks, and it can be done in a lot more expedited process. The other thing you can do, and some jurisdictions are doing, is you can just physically adopt a map. Like what you see on your screen right now. And that is an option to do as well. There are some problems with that in that you don't really have very clear legal descriptions. And also, again, adopting a map as part of an ordinance or a resolution, there's errors that can occur with printing. So that is not technically a recommended way to go, but it's a completely legal way to go. The other 2 things I want to discuss is the fact that, again, it can be done through an ordinance, such as you did in 2010, but it also can be done through a resolution. So really what I want to do today is open it up for discussion on how you want to see this come back to you. From the committee that we've worked with and in consultation with your CAO, the recommendation that we would like to make is that you come back with a resolution utilizing census blocks. But again, we are open for discussion. If we were to do that, we would have to rescind the ordinance. It would be done by resolution going forward. It would meet all the legal standards. And somewhat more importantly, it would meet the time standards. Because again, we have to have this done by December 15th, or at least have it for an official vote by that time. So I open it up for discussion. I don't know if Lon, if you had any thoughts as well, because again, I know you know these maps better than anyone.
Well, from GIS, from my point of view or my perspective, the list of census blocks is by far the fastest, easiest way to go about it. You're looking at just over 2,900 census blocks in the county. I could have list for each district or each of the proposed districts put together by the end of the day if I needed to. It would be fairly quick to get that done. Adopting the map, the biggest problem with that, I mean, that's also a simple way, but the biggest problem with that is that in order to make the lines visible when you're looking at the entire county, and I'm kind of getting into the technical aspects of mapping, by the time when you zoom in on that map, the line is probably going to be 100 feet wide, which is not very accurate. It's one thing when it's following a road and a road easement, but when you get into more rural areas, or when you start getting away from things like roads, then suddenly it's, a house, a person might be on the line and you don't know which side that house is actually on. So that's probably the least accurate way to go about it.
Thank you. I know, Matthew, if you wanted to add anything else to this as well, but again, we're just looking for some thoughts from the board and from the public about whether using the census blocks would be appropriate, and about whether we want to turn this into a resolution versus an ordinance. Again, if we were to do that, we would rescind the ordinance that's currently on the books and we would adopt it as a resolution. And of course, the hand is raised from the most important person in the room right now. So County Council.
Ms. Grant?
Okay, that was a joke, right?
Yes.
I would just suggest to the board, I had suggested census blocks because it is used and it is readily done. I would also suggest a resolution to, if it is possible, include the maps, just because it's a visual. Those are the maps adopted, the census blocks, the original ordinance of the board makes reference to the census in terms of its determination, so that's consistent. Whether the ordinance is completely rescinded or amended, either way, that can be done, I think, handily, and you can proceed through a resolution in this case. However the ordinance is done, we'll figure that out so that it is as clean as possible and clear to the public. But as I said, the resolution and using the census blocks is a legitimate way to go, and it can be done efficiently, effectively, and be made clear to the public.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rothstein?
With Anita's comments, I don't have anything further to add. Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions or comments from board members regarding how to move forward? And I think that the map was built on census blocks, so it makes perfect sense to just use census blocks. I think I was going through the description from 2010. Unfortunately, I was going through it thinking it was the new 2020. It is easy to follow. Granted, you have to trust that the linear feet is correct. I'm not going to go out and measure that. But it definitely is a very long-winded way of basically stating what we've already created. And as we saw in our last meeting, Mr. Sharp was clicking on individual census blocks to add and change the maps. And so it is absolutely being built by that. So I think that is the appropriate way to move forward. I think that a resolution, in my opinion, is a very appropriate way to move forward. We've had 4 meetings already, so it's not like we need to go through a first and second reading of what our intentions are with the new districts. I think it's been very transparent to the public on what it is that we're doing. It's all been noticed in our local media. So I think that doing an ordinance is a bit of an overkill, and that a resolution would be an appropriate way to go ahead and finish. Those are my comments. And if there's nothing further, then let's go ahead and open it up for the public. Anyone from the public have any comments, questions about our final map that is being regarded today in this item? or our process in finalizing our redistricting? I see none in the boardroom, and I see none in the Zoom room. Oh, we changed our mind. Go ahead and come up to the microphone. Please state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
John Moss. I'd like to these people who spoke to identify themselves, whether they're county employees or from the state. And I'd like to know what this redistricting essentially does. I want to keep our relationship with Napa County. And
So this is only about the supervisorial districts, not having to do with congressional or state representation.
good, thank you. I just wanted it explained to me so I understand what it is. And if they could identify who they are and if they're county employees.
And so I'll go ahead and do that. Margaret Long is a contractor that we've contracted with for this specific reason for redistricting. That was done back in June or May. I forget when exactly it happened. And she has been in the process along with staff from our administrative office, which includes Matthew Rothstein, who is one of our staff members from the administrative office. And Lon Sharp is from our, I believe I'm going to say correctly, IT. I want to say you're always working with Public Works. I get confused.
He's in
and I
Lake County
apologize.
IT.
And he is a Lake County staffer as well. And actually our GIS guru has been absolutely a huge help, not just for this, but for many other projects.
I do want to point out that many people, especially who are older, were affected by the coronavirus lockdown. And there are many people that were not counted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then the redistricting is just going to provide a line on our maps of which supervisors represent which constituents. And that way, when it comes down to voting, our registrar of voters will have those new lines and know exactly who will be voting for what and what ballot they will be receiving. And I'll open it up in case that either Ms. Long or Mr. Rothstein want to add to that, or Mr. Sharp. And it does not appear so.
You did perfect. Thank you.
All right. And then let me see. So I believe today we're just providing direction to staff. Looks to me like, is there an agreement to do a resolution and to use census blocks?
Yes.
All right. We're getting a unanimous yes on that. And Supervisor Crandall, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I wanted to see if I could, yeah, there they are. They got me as a panelist now. That helps.
Yes.
I was just showing Supervisor Pyska this. It's not anything that could affect today because it's kind of like, it's just a note. I just would like to show if I could share my screen real quick. Let's see. That's photos.
You should be able to do that.
Where did it go? It was just there, sorry. Share content, screen, and am I doing it right here? Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Oh, is it letting me share?
It popped up and it disappeared.
Screen. Well, I'll just go on with it. There's a map I have. I was trying to get my photos in there, but it's not doing it for some reason. There's an old map that we have for the Lake County tribes. And let's see if it does iCloud Drive. Nope, it doesn't. So what I was showing Supervisor Pyska is that the area that she obtains across the lake in the Glenhaven area, the tribe was called Comdot. And the area for the Comdot tribe across from that little area that is what's it called? Buckingham over to Glenhaven, and it used to be called the Comdot tribe area. So if there's ever a time we decide to put a bridge there or something, we can connect and use a historical preference from that map. If I could get this map up, I would do it, but I just, for whatever reason, can't do so. But yeah, I was just trying to emphasize and show that there's a historical element to that so that we can not have so much complications with actually touching our borders, if that makes sense. We can go across the lake, and that's the easiest spot to do so, and use the tribal aspect of it for a historical value, like you were talking about in the congressional area. So, yeah.
And I do know that part of redistricting is we're not supposed to cut communities of interest, or at least the least amount of possible. But I believe that current tribal land is not supposed to be split. But what you're speaking of is more of ancestral land, not current.
Glenhaven doesn't have a tribe there right now. It's just an area, so yeah. But if I could get that map up, I just can't on this iPad. Sorry.
Tough to see it.
Yeah.
And so you have direction from the board, and we've opened it up for the public comment. We've received public comment, and I believe that finishes up this item unless there's anything further.
No, thank you for this opportunity. Our 4 public hearings have been very productive. I do work with other jurisdictions and counties, and I will say you are a lot farther ahead than a lot of them. And it has been an absolute pleasure to work with everybody in the county.
Thank you for being with us in the long haul. This has definitely been a process that I've never experienced before. So thank you very much. And let me go back. And again, also thank you to all the staff involved. This is not this is heavy lifting, very important for the next 10 years and very important for our next elections as well. And so that does all of our items. I'm looking and making sure we didn't miss any. So the next one is our weekly calendars. And let's go
Mr. Chair,
ahead.
6.3.
Did I miss that one?
Yeah.
Oh, I am so sorry.
It's a quickie.
9:25 a.m. Not on time. Consideration of the California Fire Safe Council 2021 CAL FIRE Evacuation Route Planning and Development Grant Program application for financial aid for the Soda Bay Corridor Evaluation Route Planning and Maintenance Project, and authorize the Public Works Director to sign. I apologize that I missed that one. I had crossed it off and it was not even close. Director De Leon.
Good morning. I'd like to first start by thanking admin for getting this on the agenda. I recognize that today is a special meeting and I'll try to be brief. Little background behind this, the California Fire Safe Council made some grant funds available for evacuation route planning and development. And there was a consortium of such folks that are made up of representatives from the homeowners associations along what we're calling the Soda Bay Corridor. It consists of Kelseyville, Riviera West, Buckingham, and Riviera Heights. This group of homeowners called themselves the Kanakta Area Fire Safety Council, and they developed a project along with our Risk Reduction Authority. Unfortunately, they were advised that the county needed to make application for the funds, and that they weren't going to be able to as this group. And so Public Works was tasked with putting this application together. And so this morning, I'm happy to present an update on that and get your board's approval for submitting the application and your authorization to sign it. Just a very brief background of the project that they envisioned. It's a two-part project. One is the hiring of a consultant to prepare a emergency wildlife evacuation plan. And what is envisioned there is a consultant would coordinate the various emergency responding agencies together with the homeowners association or associations to identify evacuation procedures for various fire scenarios. So that's one of the objectives of the project. The other objective is the removal of hazardous trees within the corridor that could fall on the road and block the corridor and block folks from egress out of the area. You'll note that the corridor is made up of Soda Bay Road to Highway 281 and then a portion of Point Lakeview, and it basically provides really the only way in and out of those 4 communities. And so this corridor would have those hazardous trees removed again, so it could be coordinated so folks could get in and out. I'll note that as I understand it, the Risk Reduction Authority created a best fit grant committee that vetted this proposal and deemed it worthy of application. And I'm happy to ask Supervisor Simon or Supervisor Pyska for additional input on that if they would like. And with that, again, what I'm requesting this morning is the approval of the application and allowing us to go ahead and submit this on behalf of this coalition and authorize the Public Works Director to sign the application. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. We provided you the most current draft of the application this morning. I apologize for the short time frame for you to review that, but it does give you an opportunity to take a look at where we're at so far. This grant application is due December the 15th, and I'm in the process of wrapping up some of the documents that are required, and I'm happy to entertain any comments that you might have with respect to the application itself prior to the 15th. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I'll open it up to Supervisor Simon or Supervisor Pyska.
Yours up first.
Well, I want to thank you, Scott, for jumping on this. There's been a lot of legwork already done by the Konocti Fire Safety Council. I want to thank them to kind of preload you with some information on what's required there. We all know that the Soda Bay corridor is one of the top 10 most dangerous evacuation routes rated by the state. So this is a $360,000 grant that's going to be used for not just clearing the evacuation route, but education and preparation. So it's really important for this community. I'm really excited. This is another wonderful success that's come out of the collaboration with the Risk Reduction Authority with Supervisor Simon. So I applaud everybody that jumped on this and got right into it, pulled up their sleeves and are working on this application. So I want to thank everybody that's been working so hard on it. Thanks, Scott.
I just want to follow up with, saying thank you to getting this to the agenda so we have the opportunity. One of the things that's come up during the Risk Reduction Authority conversations quite a bit from our community and the agencies involved is, when the county is going to step up and start going for some of these grants. I appreciate Public Works, Scott, yourself stepping up to do that in your department and really look at this as kind of a pilot program throughout the county, because ultimately we need to go after a complete one for the entire county, but starting at a smaller scale and looking at an operation there at one of our most vulnerable communities in the Rivieras is the right way to go. So appreciate the opportunity to get this in. We're working on multiple projects through the Risk Reduction Authority that, will just hopefully help bring in those type of funds to look at these emergency operations and evacuation routes throughout the county over the next couple of years. So, greatly appreciated the work that was done to get it on the agenda this quickly so we could go for it. And, there's never a guarantee on the grants, but this is a great start to look at the overall options that we have in Lake County, because there will be more funds coming out, and kind of look at it as a pilot program that we can do in this area for this year, and looking at a long-term one that will cover the entire county, because we know that there are lots of corridors and evacuation routes that need to be completed. So appreciate the hard work and excited to have the opportunity to apply for this grant.
Any further comments from board members, questions? I do have a question, and I think that Supervisor Simon just alluded to this. What are the limitations of the grant as far as financially and time-wise? Are we able to do this whenever? Is this an annual grant? I know there's a deadline of December 15th here, but is this something that we can access regularly, or is this kind of when it's available, when the NOFA decides to go out? Looks like Supervisor Simon's gonna.
I know that just in our conversations with state and CAL FIRE, this is the CAL FIRE, the California Fire Safe Council grant. There are CAL FIRE grants that will be coming out too. So this was the first option that came through the county, I think, through the Fire Safe Council. So that's why, we jumped right on it. But these are annual grants that come out, and we'll be looking at the other options to expand it for the entire county. But looking at this as the first kind of pilot program to be brought into Lake County. So that's a thought on it. There will be other grant opportunities that we can go after coming in.
Okay. No, because I agree also with what you said, that there's other corridors that are definitely sensitive to fires, and that we need to figure out a better way to, what is the evacuation routes? How can we make those roads better? There's so much. And we're asking for $380,000. And I take it that if the grant is approved, we would get the full funding, or do they give partials? How does that work?
It's a reimbursement.
Oh, it's reimbursement up to?
It's a reimbursement. So they'll reimburse up to the amount that we spend. This is the second Fire Safe Council grant that we've been able to go after just in the last couple of months. We haven't had Fire Safe Council grants from the state before, but these are programs that they're ramping up because of what's happening in California.
Right.
So we're working with CAL FIRE, we're working with OES on other grants, and this one happens to be coming from the Fire Safe Council. That's why they wanted to fund those Fire Safe Council director positions, like we got for the funding for NCO for the RRA. And then this is more of the programmatic part once you're building that capacity.
Okay. And then my last question is, in the application, it says project manager is Carol Hutchinson. Just kind of curious as far as what exactly that entails for our CAO.
And that is a good question. And I have the same question of Director De Leon.
Well, this is a draft, and I put names in, and I'm happy to modify that. And so, that's part of the draft process. So I can check with the state and see what exactly they're anticipating out of those positions. And we can clarify that. And if we need to put different names in there, we're happy to do that.
Okay. Because in my mind, I was thinking about NCO and whether or not they would be a lead or someone else, that just was curious.
Well, it's got to be the county. And a big part, the county has to apply, be the applicant, but we also are in the position where we have to reimburse the funding, and we can't really put that on NCO. We can't put that on the Canocti Fire Safety Group. So it really needs to be us.
So it needs to be an actual staff person, or else the reimbursement doesn't come. Okay.
Correct.
I was just curious. I just saw that in there, and obviously I think there will be further conversations to see what happens. And Director De Leon, if you could let us know what those changes look like prior to it being submitted by December 15th, just so we're at least updated on who is on this application for the state perspective to know what's going on. Supervisor Simon?
Yeah, I just think, thank you for bringing that up. I did miss that. But my thoughts are that it's going to be in the Public Works Department, that it would be our Public Works Director who would be the manager of the project. So I know we haven't had that direct conversation, but that was my assumption as the application was going in. So that would be my suggestion on the change.
Mr. Chair, there are some kinds of grants where my signature seems to be required. The sheriff has a few grants where they require the county administrative officer to sign off on things. I'm not sure that this grant has that requirement. If it does not, I think Director De Leon should be in the lead role.
I agree with that.
And I'll check with the state. They've been very responsive to the few questions that I've asked them, and I'll get some clarification on what those titles and the roles that they serve with the grant, and I'll get that clarified.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And looking for Authorization for the application to be submitted. Oh, so sorry. Moving along. Public comment? Any public comment on this item? Thank you, guys. Not that I missed the entire item or anything. Go ahead and come up to the microphone. State your name and you have 3 minutes.
John Moss. I, of course, want to stand up for the trees. We've already cut so many trees down for PG&E. And I want to offer an alternative route, which is Clear Lake. The natural place to run from a fire is water. And I'm sure the community, the Soda Bay corridor, is quite close to the waters of Clear Lake, which the fire cannot, unless our waters are so bad that they catch fire too. But our waters are an evacuation route, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have in the Zoom room, we have Betsy Kahn.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you, supervisors, and thank you, Mr. De Leon. Thank you so much for that. The organizations over there in that community are really working hard to try to support the Risk Reduction Authority programs, and this is essential for their safety. And so I really do appreciate what you've done. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. And I take it the hand back up is accidental or? I'll take that as a yes. Thank you. So let's go ahead and bring it back from public comment and looking for action.
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the application for financial aid for the Soda Bay Corridor Evacuation Route Planning and Maintenance Project and authorize the Public Works Director to sign.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Simon, second by Supervisor Pyska. Roll call, please, Johanna.
Okay, supervisors.
Aye.
Oops, sorry. Supervisor Crandall.
Aye.
Supervisor Scott.
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska.
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Director De Leon. And now we can do our supervisors' weekly calendars, and let's start with Supervisor Scott.
Tomorrow I have meetings with constituents at 10 and 2. On Thursday, I will be attending the Racial Equity Foundation training at noon, and then the Lake County Continuum of Care at 3. On Friday, I have a 2:30 meeting with the City of Lakeport, and then introduction meeting at 4 o'clock, and then we'll be attending Christmas in the Country that evening in Kelseyville. And then on Saturday, also attending Festival of Trees to support hospice at 5:30 in Kelseyville. And then on Monday the 6th, I have court with one of my foster youth, and then a SafeRx meeting at 10:30. Then a planning meeting for next year for the BOS at 3:30, and then getting ready for our Tuesday's meeting.
Thank you. Supervisor Simon.
LTA APC meeting tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon is CDD committee meeting. And then Thursday, there's the Best Fits Grant meeting, Clear Lake, I think it's the quarterly meeting for the Blue Ribbon Committee. Later in the afternoon, the Lake County, California, with the home hardening program that we're looking at. And then on Friday, South Lake Port annexation meeting. Monday, meeting with Carol. In the afternoon, going with Supervisor Pyska to the South Lake County Fire Safe Council meeting. I have that on my calendar. So, and then back here on the 7th.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I missed one. Friday night, Lower Lake is having a Christmas event or parade, I think, first time they're doing it down there, and it may not be the first time, but the first time I'll be going. So I'll be there Friday night.
I believe it is their first, and then on the Saturday, it'll be Clear Lakes. Supervisor Pyska.
Okay, that was wrong. Oh boy. Okay. Tomorrow morning, we have the TID meeting. And then I'm going to be having coffee with Leonardo Rodriguez, who is he's just been placed on the state community college board, and he's from Kelseyville. So I'm really excited to sit down and talk with him. Very, very proud of him. We have our CDD committee meeting. I have a Girl Scout meeting. I've got, there's a special Middletown Unified School District Board meeting where they're going to be appointing new board members. On Thursday, there's the Best Fits grant meeting in the morning, the home hardening discussion in the afternoon. And then Friday, we're having the home hardening meeting also, Supervisor Simon. Did we get confirmation on that one too?
We have Thursday, right?
I thought it was Thursday. Oh wait, Friday. That's the 17th. I knew I knew something was wrong there.
I thought it was
all right, let me get that fixed. Whew.
It's the 16th, right? Is it?
I
think they wrote the wrong day. I think it's Thursday. They put
I thought
Friday
it was going to be on a
16th, but
Friday. All right. Well, clearly we need to figure that out. It's coming hard and fast.
that wasn't from our end. That was their email. That was confusing.
A lot of it. Okay. There's workforce. Did I get Thursday done? Yes. Oh, Thursday evening I have, I'm back on the 16th. Okay. Friday, I am having my air quality meeting with Doug. Wrapping up, trying to get through those orientations. The Christmas in the Country Parade is in Kelseyville that evening. And so I'm going to be decorating a float with my Girl Scouts before that. And we're going to be in the parade. And I'm so happy that this event is back. It's one of the community's favorite things to do in the season. And it's really going to be fun. Saturday is a very busy day. There's a breakfast with Santa in the morning in Cobb, the Little Red Schoolhouse. There are lots of wonderful little sales in Kelseyville that I'm going to be going around visiting the shops. There's the grand opening of the Mercantile, which is actually, you're going to be going to that too?
Yes.
Yes. So I'll see you there. And then the Hospice Festival of Trees in the evening. Sunday is the Fiddler's Jam. I'll be there for the holiday event at Eli Stage. And Monday, I have my meeting with Carol, and then we will be at, I'll be with Supervisor Simon at the Fire Safe Council meeting in Middletown.
Thank you very much. Vice Chair Crandall.
So TID meeting in the morning, East Region Town Hall at the, I almost said Lions Club, but it's actually the Moose Lodge in Clear Lake Oaks, CSA meeting out in Spring Valley at 7 p.m. Thursday, the Clear Lake Blue Ribbon Committee at 10. Friday, I'll be meeting with some citizens in Upper Lake around noontime, and then SEP committee from 4 to 5 on Friday. There is an Upper Lake Christmas cruise on Saturday at 6:30. They did one last year and it was really a big hit. A lot of people decorated their cars and whatnot and put lights on it and cruised through the town of Upper Lake. And it starts at 5:30 for the to line up if you're going to do one, if you're from Upper Lake or in the area and you want to be part of this cruise. And it has a map and whatnot, but you start at where the middle school is. And so on Old Lucerne Road on that day, and then at 6:30, they'll be starting it. The theme is Christmas movies, so just use your imagination on that one. But I'll be at that for that night. Monday, I will have the Middle Creek Restoration at 10:30, meeting with Carol, and then back here Tuesday.
Thank you very much. So tomorrow, Lake APC with Supervisor Simon. And then on Thursday, start out the day with judges breakfast, a meeting with some constituents. CSAC annual board meeting will occur later that day in the afternoon, and then finish that day with the Clear Lake City Council meeting. Looks like currently my Friday is empty, and then the following week we have our Middle Creek Restoration Project meeting in the morning, meeting with our CAO, preparing for our meeting on the 7th. And that's all I have, other than, of course, December 4th in the city of Clear Lake. There will be 2 activities. One will be in the park, in Austin Park, where it will be Christmas in Clear Lake. And I believe that starts at 11 a.m. And then later on, I believe it's at 5:30 p.m. where the Christmas parade will begin. And so lots of festivities happening around the county at this moment in time. And with that, unless I missed anything from anybody, that will go ahead and conclude our meeting. We will be going into closed session. And our closed session is 8.1, public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code, Section 54957B1, interview of Health Services Director, appointment of Health Services Director. And with that, we will adjourn to closed session. There I am. All right, we're going to reconvene our open session of today's special meeting, and we came out of closed session. Vice Chair Crandall, is there any action from closed session?
Yes, there is, Mr. Chair. I would like to motion to appoint Jonathan Portney to Health Services Director effective January 10th, 2022 at the salary step number 2 on the salary scale.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Crandall and a second from Supervisor Pyska. Roll call, please, Johanna.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Sabatier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very exciting today. And with that, our meeting is adjourned unless there's
A
words.
minute to speak or say something.
You want to give? Let him speak. Public comment?
Yes. I apologize for cutting this short, but please, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to serving the community as the Health Service Director. It is my goal in this position to ensure that I do everything I can to ensure the betterment of health of all Lake County residents. And it's truly an honor to be here. And I look forward to serving at the capacity of Health Service Director. And thank you.
Thank you so much. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.